So what else did Krishnamurti teach us? Oh, he said actually, it's not a good idea if a guy teaches the others and the others are just taking it in. He said that's actually precisely what he was not about. If I apply him in my way, because he invited us to go beyond what he taught us, he said, you know, you have to get better than me eventually. In 100 years, I need you guys to be further than I was. And the way I apply him is Krishnamurti said, this is me paraphrasing, okay, that we have to be able to sort of educate ourselves, to become ourselves, not just knowledgeable about linear information, but applying what he would have called his teachings, and apply them to whatever it is. Apply it to your trading, apply it to your high-level astrology, apply it to the gold situation, apply it in the legal field, in anything we do. I mean, Bruce Lee applied it in his business. And so this is what I'm doing here with you. I applied myself to integrate the whole knowing, because all the stuff that Johnny and Daniel and I and Susan and Sheila were talking about for 10 years or whatever, I soon enough understood it's just one big knot of stuff. So if you try to pull a string out and say, let's take the economy out of the world affairs and let's take the ETs out of it, it just doesn't work. You can't. I tried it by writing the book. I said, let's write a chapter about only this, then a chapter about only that. And soon enough I found that I have to rewrite the whole thing again because there are too many connection points. And that's why it seems maybe to you, because I'm Pisces, that I'm all over the place. But the whole thing is all over the place. Are we on now?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it good? Okay. So then, in the book Light Seeds, first of all, I wrote a smaller book called Zen of Stars. There was part 1 and part 2, where we were going into these Krishnamurti subjects. Then came a break of 1 or 2 years, because I had more research to do. And then, in 2007, we did this last little book called Foreseen. And that's kind of more futuristic, because the idea was, so there is this future incarnation out there. He may be physical in a spaceship or not, it doesn't really matter. It's something out there. And he talks back to this guy here, or to this guy there, or to this lady there, into his other incarnation. So usually we think like, okay, I understood I had a past life with the German scientists where we were doing the V2 rockets and stuff. Or I was maybe the advisor to some Chinese boss in 5,000 years ago. These things are important, and you're an expert at past lives, and ideally it would be a good thing to know a little bit about what we did in another life. And that's a good approach. It's maybe not as relevant as understanding that that past life, many past lives, and this life here in this room, each of you, and the future life, which you may have one day, another life, that all that is one string of energy, and it's all the same life. It's all the same. That's what I wanted to share to start. Does that make sense? Is that acceptable? Or is it out there? Okay, good. That's what Foreseen is about. That's what my whole book is and stuff. But because I know most of you have never actually seen my books, because we're all new to each other, most of us are new, I had to mention this. So now we can go into some questions we had. There's so many issues that we're going to try to do in a very fast run in these next 2 hours. I believe we got stuck a little bit yesterday on the issue about why the aliens, or how the aliens, or are the aliens. So let's forget it all, and let's just say that we know from at least the Egyptians, we also know from the Atlanteans, from the Sumerians, we just know that there were interactions for many, many thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. We don't exactly know when humanity began. We just don't know for sure. Let's just agree we don't know. That's cool. There's some who say they know, and they can just, let's set this aside, but accept that this beautiful blue jewel is a super important space in this universe. It's really important in this galaxy and on the whole thing. And it is situated, believe it or not, doesn't matter, it's situated on a rather important trading route. if we would think of this as a gas station in the middle of a huge highway, the galactic, whatever. And some races sometimes need to stop here and then move on. And they trade, they bring stuff from out there to some other place, and they travel interdimensionally. They don't like float in some ship. Not all of them, some do, but others are intergalactic. So while this morning my British friends and I were playing Michael Schumacher, we were actually talking about this stuff while we were driving too fast. And really the whole story is that it's a very long story, and it's the oldest story of mankind. It's just something that we need to sometimes keep just somewhere in the back of our mind, because sometimes we come across situations and issues in the world, in world affairs, in politics, in economy, and we don't seem to make sense of it. We're just thinking, well, why is this going on here, and what's going on? Why do we have wars and all that stuff? And just always keep in the back of your mind that there's this ancient story still floating, and it's probably going to float a little longer. But there comes a point where some really positive forces are suggesting to us that we were them. They are us in the future, in their future, something of that sort. And they're saying, please, let's accelerate, you guys. So this is where we got off a bit towards the end of our yesterday talk. And you asked me, are we going to wait for the 2045 alignment, Uranus-Pluto, when you are going to be 100 years old? Or can we actually accelerate? Can we accelerate at least ourselves and maybe all of mankind? And I said immediately, absolutely, after we're done with this meeting, we can consider ourselves accelerated at personal level. And I've seen this happen in other meetings. I've really seen, Johnny can testify, we've seen people who came in, they had no clue of who we were. They thought that's some spooky operation. Woo-hoo. And then they left us after 3 or 4 days, and a few weeks later they said to Johnny, wow, things have changed, it's different. Now, it's not because I transferred some information, knowledge, books or stuff, or answered some question. I guess there's something else going on. I don't even really know what it is, but there's a transfer of energy. It's maybe through me, it's the locations, it's the place, it's the power, the beauty of this, of everything. And then all of a sudden, things change. So now, let's do a quick... Yes? Sorry.
You know, that for some of us, can you explain how does that materialize itself? When you say they came in and said the how, is that in your mind? These people came in and
the extraterrestrials.
Is that it, just inside of you, of course, or do you actually see something?
Do you speak of the extraterrestrials?
Yeah, what you and Johnny experienced, you said.
Ah, no, you mean our friends who came to a meeting with us. Yes. Hard to pinpoint. He then also got himself a little resonator, like I showed you yesterday, but that's an external little tool, which I would say that's just a contact that you can use like a mirror. Go ahead.
There's also a theory that when groups gather, the group is actually forming a whole, and that, not an H-O-L-E, W-H-O-L-E, and that each of us is a component, and that the combined energy of the group accelerates different pieces in the individuals.
That's very well said. That helps too. That helps.
A bit like meditation in a group.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's a very active, both linear, mental, or maybe even genetic. Something changes. I can speak for Johnny. I haven't seen Johnny in what now, a year about, and he's seen me not for 1 year. But anyway, long story short, we're physically changed, Johnny and I. We're physically become healthy. We were still having, you know, a few internal physical issues, and we have, like, all of a sudden transformed. And you know, I know that I've gotten like a little...
Yes. The smoking part, right?
Yeah.
Smoking and the drinking.
But other than that, no problem.
Really healthy. Everyone.
Yeah?
Everyone is changing everyone.
Yes, yes, well said. Everyone is changing everyone.
It's all of us.
Yes. Okay, so that was that subject, and so now we're done with it. That was the introduction to sum up yesterday. Summing up, then we had the phenomenal, most phenomenal gold discussion, and in that gold discussion, and this is where we're coming to you, Antonia, in that gold discussion, you mentioned the Roman Empire, the cycles, and I could take you even back further cycles, further back to the Sumerians, Egyptians, Atlantis. But there is a very clear 500-year cycle, more or less, roughly. You know, it can be very precise, or it can be just to remember things easy. Every 500 years, there comes together an astrological alignment between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Those are the outer planets, far away out there. And they form a certain geometric alignment that is very similar, and one can then see every 500 years if there was a certain progress or a certain change, or sometimes a devolution. You know, sometimes history of mankind went backwards. But I don't have the time to go through all of this.